Hello everybody, Necromancy for Kids here, back again with a gold format deck profile. This time a variation of the typical goat control deck that I like to call Drowned Goat. This deck focuses more around water monsters rather than chaos, and I think it has an interesting strategy. I opted for a more janky style, but I'll explain in a moment. At the end of the video how you can alter this to make it more consistent and more to a typical style for the deck. To start off the deck profile, we are using some of the typical cards in Go Control, including one copy of Magician of Faith. We would run more, but we don't need lights, and then we have one copy of Sinister Serpent, of course. And to go with that, we have Tribe Infecting Virus. And very important in this that they are both also water monsters. One Sangan to search most of our deck, as always. And two Tsukiyomi to reset Thousand Eyes Restrict. Well, we have one Mobius, a tribute monster that we can use, tribute our Thousand Eyes Restrict, or generally just to utilize, get rid of back row. Obviously, being a water, he has some synergy here. Then we start to veer things off with 3 Mother Grizzly. Mother Grizzly in this deck is really good because you can use it to grab Sinister Serpent, as well as there are other cards in a moment that will show you that it can grab. Very important to note that despite what you might think, this is actually a Beast Warrior and not a Beast, so if the opponent has their own Tribe Infecting Virus, or you use your Tribe Infecting Virus to get rid of Scapegoats, it is not going to get rid of Mother Grizzly too. As well, because we're running so many water monsters, we can utilize Abyss Soldier in this deck. Once per turn, discard 1 water monster, target 1 card in the field, and return it to hand. Very useful for getting rid of opposing Thousand Eyes Restrict, or problem cards in the opponent's field. The opponent's using stall cards, this is really good as well. Then we have starting to veer into the more janky aspect of this deck, because we're already running Metamorphosis for Thousand Eyes Restrict, and because we're using Mother Grizzly, we can use cards that Mother Grizzly can summon that are higher level, which includes, in this case, I'm using Catapult Turtle, which is a level 5 with 1000 attack, 2000 defense. Once per turn, it can tribute a monster to inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the tribute monster's attack. Mainly you're using this because it's really the best level 5 that you could summon off of Mother Grizzly, but it could potentially be pretty good. If nothing else, you can wall forward a little bit if you really have to. If you end up taking an opponent's monster later, you can always tribute it, or you can tribute your Thousand Eyes Restrict later and break away from the restriction. Then for our level 6 monster that can be summoned off of Mother Grizzly, we have Neo Aquamador, which has 1200 attack and 3000 defense. Pretty much nothing in GOAT format is going to run over this, so it requires removal for them to get rid of it. Although usually you're going to be, if you can't summon it off of Mother Grizzly, you're going to be tribute setting, and then the opponent usually just knocks it, but still pretty cool in my opinion. Then one card that I ended up using 3 of in this deck is Nightmare Penguin, a level 4 Aqua with 900 attack and 1800 defense, although its attack doesn't stay 900 because its effect is all face-up water monsters you control gain 200 attack, which includes itself, not excluding it. And it allows you to do things like boost up Abyss Soldier to 2000 attack, bring Mother Grizzly up to a reasonable 1600 attack. Mobius gets up to 2600, so it can run over other monarchs. And it doesn't increase the opponent's monster's attack either. And with 1800 defense, it can wall off a lot of stuff in the game. Unfortunately, not Air Knight Parshath or a boosted Blade Knight. But you'll notice it has another effect here, which is, in my opinion, the most important part, which is when this card is flipped face up, target 1 card your opponent controls, return that target to the hand. So this isn't a flip effect. It is just a when it is flipped face up effect. So if the opponent is to like use null and a crossout on it, it won't banish all copies from your deck. It'll just banish the one. And also Blade Knight won't negate this effect. So if the opponent does hit it with a Blade Knight that's boosted to 2000, then you could still return that Blade Knight or another card to their hand. And if it doesn't have a boost, then it's going to not even destroy Nightmare Penguin, and then you could bounce it or any other card they control. This is pretty good because it can also bounce back row if you really need to make your turn a bit safer. Or one big thing is to return set cards the opponent controls back to their hand. So over and over again, they're going to be having to just set the same card over and over, and you can keep resetting it with Tsukiyomi and whacking the opponent directly for 1100 damage. Then of course we have the Trinity, Delinquent Duo, Graceful Charity, and Pot of Greed. And 3 copies of Metamorphosis, since we're going for a strategy that's heavily based on summoning these higher level monsters. And of course, the main target that you'll want to use it on is Sinister Serpent, or one of your 2 copies of Scapegoat. Then of course, because we're using Thousand Eyes Restrict, we have 3 copies of Book of Moon. Also lets you reset your Nightmare Penguins. And we have 2 copies of Nobleman of Crossout. Because we're only running 1 Magician of Faith, we don't end up losing too many cards in our deck. We have Nobleman of Crossout. And our Nightmare Penguins, for one, nobody uses Nightmare Penguins. But because it's not a flip monster, we also won't lose them from the deck either. We only have the 1 Magician of Faith, not because of the interaction with Nobleman of Crossout, but because there isn't much room in here for other cards, and I found out that the Nightmare Penguin strategy is a really good wall, and it's actually won quite a lot of games for me with this deck. Obviously, if you find room for yourself, like if you don't want to run both of these in your deck for the Metamorphosis plays, you could include another copy of Magician of Faith or another copy of Mobius the Frost Monarch. But then, of course, in this deck, we have Heavy Storm, Mystical Space Typhoon. We run 1 copy of Brain Control, since we have some cards that are kind of bricky in our deck, and plus we can tribute the opponent's monsters with Metamorphosis. But otherwise, we could tribute summon for Dio Aquamador, or Catapult Turtle, or Mobius the Frost Monarch. One thing that I do a lot with this is take the opponent's monster, then whack them directly to to test their back row. And then afterward, I'll tribute set one of these 2. Then we have a copy of Premature Burial to bring back our monsters, especially things like these higher level monsters that we can use with Metamorphosis. Or if we're going to summon something and then put it face down with Tsukiyomi, so that it's not attached to Premature Burial, and we can use the effect like Nightmare Penguin, or of course Magician of Faith. Then we have 1 copy of Snatch Steal here. Application is obvious, but also, again, we have these tribute monsters, so that we can use to tribute the opponent's monsters after we utilize it. And we have 1 copy of Call the Haunted for same reason as Premature Burial, Mirror Force, Ring of Destruction, and Torrential. Then we have 1 copy of Raigeki Break, because these cards in our hand we really don't want, and also because we can get Sinister Serpent off of Mother Grizzly, we have access to hand advantage a lot, so we can use Raigeki Break to take advantage of the extra cards in our hand. After that, we have the cards that you could include in this deck besides these, which I mentioned before, another copy of Mobius the Frost Monarch, for instance, if you don't want to use both of these monsters alongside Mother Grizzly. If you go for a more water-centric version of this deck, you can run Fenrir, which can't be normal summoned or set, and special summoned by removing 2 water monsters in your graveyard from play, 1400 attack, 1200 defense. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, your opponent skips his or her next draw phase. Against other goat control decks, if they have goats out, this can continually destroy them and make your opponent skip their draw phase, or can smack a face down and have the same effect. I found out when I was trying to use this before that despite having what seems like a lot of water monsters, we actually rarely have a lot in the grave, especially because Sinister Serpent is going to be returned to our hand a lot. So I rarely have 2 water monsters to remove. And even then, I don't know if I really want to remove them because I'm using Premature Burial and Call the Haunted to utilize Metamorphosis more. And then again, you could have an extra copy of Edition of Faith in deck if you wanted to make room for that. Because you're running Mother Grizzly, you can also include Yomi Ship in your deck, a level 3 Aqua with 800 attack and 1400 defense. Something I forgot to mention is that Nightmare Penguin is an Aqua monster as well, so if the opponent has their own Tribe Infecting Virus, they would have to discard and then destroy Tribe Infecting Virus as well as your Nightmare Penguins if they want to get over it. That's another way that can help you wall. But Yomi Ship, much the same in Aqua, so your opponent can't effectively use their Tribe Infecting Virus, but if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, destroy the monster that destroyed this card. You would summon it off of Mother Grizzly or have it set, so your opponent hits it, and then they end up losing their monster in the process. In this particular build, I couldn't find room for things like this, especially because Nightmare Penguin is so useful in this deck as a wall. But if you can find room for yourself, then go right ahead and use it. And then I include Penguin Soldier, one of my favorite monsters, level 2 Aqua Flip, with 750 attack and 500 defense. And when it's flipped, turn up to 2 target monsters in the field to the owner's hand. This includes your own monsters if for some reason you need to return it to your hand. But alongside Book of Moon and Tsukiyomi, this could potentially return your opponent's set monsters back to their hand over and over and over again. And obviously it's effective against getting rid of goats. Return 2 of them to hand, i.e. remove them from the field, then attack into 1, so they only have 1 left. Then we have, you could, if just like with Fenrir, if you go for a more water-centric version of this deck, you can include Salvage, spell card with target 2 water monsters with 1500 or less attack in your graveyard and add them to your hand. You would have Nightmare Penguin, Catapult Turtle, Neo Aquamador, Mother Grizzly, and this is Sinister Serpent's probably not going to be in your graveyard, but could potentially be one. And then Yomi Ship, Fenrir, and Penguin Soldier are all also in the 1500 or less category. You can also include Creature Swap, because you've got the Recruiter here and Mother Grizzly, and you have the Scapegoat tokens to swap over to your opponent. But again, I couldn't find room in this particular build, and you could remove some of this more janky stuff to include it if you wished. Another copy or 2 of Raigeki Break if you want to really play into Sinister Serpent in this deck. Right now I'm feeling okay with just 1, but 2 copies or 3 could also work. Something that you could side in this deck if you are playing against a burn deck and you're expecting them to have Shaman Trio is Little Swordsman of Ailey, or however that's supposed to be pronounced. It is a level 4 warrior water monster. Offer 1 monster inside the field as tribute to increase the attack of this card by 700 till the end of the turn. 800 attack, 1300 defense. Basically, you just use it to tribute the Ojama tokens on your side of the field. And you don't end up taking damage from it, and then you get rid of it and save yourself life points down the line. You can also use more brain controls if you wanted to make this even more tribute heavy, or if you wanted to play more into the Metamorphosis angle. And of course, because you have a small trap lineup in this deck, you could use Royal Decrees in your side deck. As far as your fusion deck goes, pretty much the typical things that you'd see in any deck that utilizes Metamorphosis. We have a level 5 in Dark Bolter, level 6 in Dark Blade, which you can summon Aquamador. Level 6 in Dark Blade, the Dragon Knight. Just the best level 4/1 Darkfire Dragon, even though Dark and Light don't matter for you. Could technically use Carbanola Soldier, and that's not really going to hurt you. Level 3 Dragoness for off of Sangan, or Stolen Opponent's level 3 monster. Level 5 Fiend Skull to summon off of Catapult Turtle. Flame Ghost, much the same thing. Gatling Dragon if you steal an opponent's BLS. King Dragon, which you could, if you decided to use it, there is a card that you could summon off of Mother Grizzly to make this, which is Metallizing Parasite Lunatite. Is a level 7 Aqua Union with the 1000 attack, 500 defense. You can special summon it off of Mother Grizzly. This effect is pretty much useless. All it says is you can unionize it to one of your monsters, and that monster is unaffected by your opponent's spell card effects, which is a very niche effect for a level 7 monster to have. The only reason you're really using it is so that you could utilize it with Metamorphosis. I tried it out in this deck for a while, but it was just way too bricky, because even if you brain control, you can't distribute one monster to summon it or set it. So it really wasn't worth running in my opinion. But if you want to have fun doing that, you definitely could. And then we have Oshama King is level 6. Reaper on the Nightmare level 5. Roaring Sea Snake, just in case you need to tribute an opponent's monster and keep it Aqua, or when the opponent summons their tribe infecting virus. And also, if you are using Fenrir, this can help you get more fuel into the grave. Or of course, if you just need to turn your Aquamador into an attacking monster and then get boosted by Nightmare Penguin, that also works. Ryosenshi, Saint Shone as a level 7, just the best stats for level 7 attacker. Where Last Warrior again if you're using Metallizing Parasite or the opponent's level 7s, and 1000 Eyes Restrict. Remember that in GOAT format, even though you only have the 15 cards here in Dueling Book, you can have any number of fusion monsters in your fusion deck as you want. So you can proxy for any fusion monster in the game, and even if you only technically have one copy of 1000 Eyes Restrict, you by the rules actually can have 3. So as long as you have a full extra deck, you can utilize this ruling. And that does it for the deck today. Hope you all enjoyed the deck profile and have a good one.